أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the current series of podcasts, we are studying the verses of the second chapter, that is Surah of the Quran. We now come to verse 255, that is 55th verse of Surah number 2. وَإِذْ قُلْتُمْ يَا مُوسَى لَن نُؤْمِنَ لَكَ حَتَّى نَرَى اللَّهَ جَهْرَةً فَأَخَذَتْكُمُ الصَّاعِقَةُ وَأَنْتُمْ تَنْظُرُونَ. Translation. And remember that time when you said, O Moses, we won't believe you until we see Allah with our own eyes. The thunderbolt then struck you as you were watching. Comments. Allah continues to address the children of Israel here and reminds them of what they intransigently asked Moses to present to them. The Jews' demand was in fact foolish, as a finite being like a human being is not able to see the infinite. In verse 143, that is 143rd verse of Surah number 7, the Quran also speaks of Moses himself individually expressing his desire to his Lord, that is Allah, to see him. But this expression of desire was not the result of any intransigence. It was just his curiosity, that is Moses' curiosity. Moses became unconscious when he tried to see him. Allah thus made Moses understand the absurdity of a finite creature like a human being in the circumstances of his or her earthly existence, attempting to see the infinite being. This incongruity is also highlighted in verse 42-51, that is 51st verse of Surah number 42. Quote unquote, it is not for any human being that Allah would speak to him except from behind a veil. In verse 25-21, that is 21st verse of Surah number 25, Allah condemns those who ask why they do not see Allah as being driven by self-conceit and utter arrogance. The children of Israel were similarly driven by their intransigence in what they told Moses, as recorded in the verse under our study presently. It was obviously by way of divine punishment for this intransigence that the thunderbolt struck them. The very next verse, however, tells us, verse 256, 56th verse of Surah number 2, Summa ba'asnakum min ba'di mautikum la'allakum tashkurun. Translation: We then raised you up after your death, so you might be grateful. Comments: Death, maut in Arabic, is the irreversible ending of the present worldly life on this earth. Death, maut in Arabic, is the irreversible ending of the present worldly life on this earth, especially so far as human beings are concerned. The Quran corroborates when it says that Allah withholds the souls of those on whom He has passed the decree of death. This is the quote from 42nd Surah, for 42nd verse of Surah number 39. But nothing is impossible for Allah. And to illustrate, the Quran speaks of a person whom Allah caused to die for 100 years and then raised him up again. That is mentioned in verse 259 of Surah number 2. The verse under our study presently is another instance wherein Allah raised up the children of Israel to life after their death from the thunderbolt that struck them. After their death from, let me read it again. The verse under our study presently is another instance wherein Allah raised up the children of Israel to life after their death from the thunderbolt that struck them. We do hear of some medical cases in our present times also when people, after having been declared clinically dead, regain life. Now verse 257, 57th verse of Surah number 2. وَزَلَّلْنَا عَلَيْكُمُ الْغَمَامَ وَأَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَنَّ وَالسَّلْوَى كُلُوا مِن طَيِّبَاتِ مَا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ وَمَا ظَلَمُونَا وَلَكِنْ كَانُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ يَظْلِمُونَ. Translation: And we caused the clouds to provide you with shade, and we sent down the manna and the quail. Eat of the good, lawful and pure things we have provided for you. They could do no wrong to us, but they did wrong themselves. Comments. Down in this same Qur'anic chapter, that is chapter number 2, in verse 61, we are informed as to why the children of Israel thus gained the displeasure of Allah. They told Moses that they could not endure any kind of food. They could not endure one kind of food, that is the manna and the quail, the superior sources of food divinely provided to them. They wanted to have inferior agricultural products like herbs, onions, lentils, etc.